Hello, everyone. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the importance of using labels when describing your values, ethics, politics, your life philosophy. Anyway, if you're somebody who is part of some, political ideology, like most of my viewers and myself, I think this is something that comes up again and again. And I'm talking about this today because I've had quite a few women reach out to me since I did a video, I think last month or the month before, talking about how I'd been reading some pretty lesbian hating sort of things from quite prominent radical feminists. It's been years and I've just kind of not paid enough attention to it, but it's been something that, has kind of forced me to kind of re-examine the label and that sort of thing, and my own identity, even, politically, how I would talk about these ideas. So I kind of stepped back and said, I'm going to use the label feminist. And yeah, I've just had women reach out to me kind of wanting to talk about this. Not a lot, but enough that it's been significant to, I think, revisit. Today I was thinking, getting my thoughts in order about this. I think that too often, and I think this is a big thing in our culture too, we have a very shallow, superficial culture, and we have just a lot of superficiality and lack of depth in terms of how people look at things, talk about things, analyze things. So because of that, the attachment is often put on labels to ideas more than fully fleshing out the ideas. And I think for those of you who have kind of maybe participated in any radical feminist communities that sprout up on social media and stuff, they're not cohesive. And the big thing is the basic difference is there are people who are actually invested in the work and the thinking and really going there with this stuff. People who are actually invested. And then there's the people who have kind of a superficial understanding of it, and maybe subscribe to some of the kind of ideas and may align in terms of activism, if that's to take place, with certain points that we would, but they don't really get it. They don't really get the whole philosophy. And the other thing is too, we have a culture right now, especially with social media, I think, that encourages us to brand ourselves. If you are a personality like me, making videos or creating content on the internet, you have to learn how to brand yourself. And this is, something that I struggle with because I have a big anti-capitalist block, right there. It's kind of fuck you. I want people to get my content that are willing to search for it, willing to go down those rabbit holes of thought, which may or may not be good for me in the long run, but whatever, this is what I'm on my path right now. This is what I'm doing. So anyway, so you have this tendency to put a lot of emphasis on the labels and not the content. And in terms of what you call yourself or what we are to call ourselves in terms of our philosophy, I think right now, as human beings living in a world that is very, very rapidly changing and getting worse, and we're dealing with a lot of ecological problems, pollution. We're dealing with the ramification of some pretty serious decades of foreign wars. We're dealing with all manner of cultural problems and divisions. I think it's important, given all that we come back to why we got interested in our politics in the first place. And I think that has to do with our values as people and our ethics as people. So what I would call on those of you who are struggling with maybe finding some contradictions between your thoughts and what is, maybe your philosophy exactly. The thing is, you are a person, you don't have to align like a robot to any ideology. You need to find the good in what you associate with and try to make it better. We often treat philosophy as if it's just this thing that, is set in stone and we have no responsibility to contribute to. No, you are a person who can think and you can contribute philosophically to the development of ideas and to the refinement of them. That's your duty if you're interested in this stuff. You don't have to adopt an ideology. You don't have to adopt one wholesale. You need to fucking research and think and look at things, and never stop doing that. Never stop exposing yourself to that. You need to refine yourself. And that means you have to take in stuff and you have to think about it and think it out. It's work. So anyway, there's that. And there's also the fact that we get interested, especially in liberation politics, because we have a vested interest in wanting to treat people differently than how they're treated now. And, in terms, if you're finding conflict with yourself and a lot of radical feminist thought, for example, this is what we're talking about mainly on this channel, but I think this stuff can apply to people in various movements. If you're finding yourself in conflict with stuff, go back to what's really important. What's important about radical feminism is that it gives us the tools to examine different ways of treating one another, bringing real equality into our human interactions. So focus mainly on how people treat one another, and specifically radical feminism, we're talking about women, how we interact as women. Go back to that. Think about what do we do for each other? How do we treat each other? Those sorts of things are the most important, and they're more important than any attachment and vigorous defense of an ideology or a label of a philosophy. Okay. Take from radical feminism new ideas and ways of treating women and interacting with women. That's the best thing I can say. And look for that in other women and try to bring that out in other women. Don't treat it as this in thing, and don't treat it as this thing that doesn't apply to all female interactions. Radical feminism informs those. So, I would say just don't worry about the label so much. Worry about what you're doing. I'm going to maybe bring up, it reminds me of the English suffragettes, and they had a slogan, deeds, not words, which I believe was one of the Pankhursts. Now, I'm not English or British, so I don't really know all the history, as well as somebody who got that education. I'm an American, obviously, so, our suffrage movement was quite different. But yeah, the suffragettes, I think that deeds, not words slogan, holy shit, that is 3 words that mean so much. I mean, that's the power of language right there. I want to get that fucking tattooed on me sometime, that's big. Because it's it can apply to so much. And I think it applies in terms of feminism, and it's important because that is part of feminist history. Like, it's not so much important at the end of the day how smart we sound, how what we say, how good what we say is. Like, and I think that's the real problem right now, actually, politically, with people who are politically minded. We spend way too much time fucking talking and not enough time acting and doing things, myself included. So, you know, that's something to take with you. So don't look so much at like what you're calling what you're doing, you know, is this feminism when I'm doing this? Just do something good, do something that's ethical, do things in your human interactions, strive to improve yourself and work to create, you know, an egalitarian way of being. You know, that's the stuff. And, you know, take the deeds, not words philosophy into what you're doing. Like, that's what I can offer you right now in terms of where I'm at. It's not important what you sound like or, you know, what you say is right, you know, because honestly, we're not going to, I think, and I just don't think like our ability to shift the culture is as great as we want it to be. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff can be really theoretical a lot of the time. You know, don't focus on that stuff so much. It's important and it has its place. But like right now, like when you're dealing with these issues of like people's characters being shitty, you know, or people doing oppressive things, like just remember you're here to refine the movement. You're here to refine the philosophy. And it's not important, you know, as much what wrong things are said and done. What matters is what we do and, you know, getting to a place of that refinement. So, yeah, that's my advice for now. Take care.